Shaq was terrified of silence. Not defenders, not losing, not critics, silence. The kind that forces you to sit with yourself, to face the truth you've been running from your entire life. And what he discovered in that silence years too late will change everything you thought you knew about greatness, about success, about what it really costs to be called a legend. This is the story of the most dominant player in NBA history, who won 4 championships, made hundreds of millions, became a global icon, and still, decades later, admits he failed himself. Not because he didn't win enough, but because he won without ever truly trying. And the reason why, the real reason, is something most people will never talk about because it's uncomfortable, it's raw, and it reveals a truth about talent and discipline that will make you question everything. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Shaq, the man who broke backboards and dominated an entire era, considers himself incomplete. And trust me, this isn't about basketball anymore. This is about what happens when your greatest gift becomes your biggest curse. But before we dive deep into this, if you want to hear stories that go beyond the surface, that reveal the uncomfortable truths behind the legends, hit that subscribe button right now, because we're about to uncover something about Shaq that even his biggest fans missed. And I want you to comment below, right now, answer this: have you ever been so good at something that you stopped trying to get better? Because that's exactly what happened to Shaq. And once you hear this story, you'll never look at talent the same way again. Let me take you back, way back, before the championships, before the fame, before the dominance, back to when Shaq was just a kid. Except, he was never just a kid. See, when you're 7 feet tall by the time you're 13, when you're stronger than grown men before you can drive a car, people don't treat you like a child. They treat you like an investment, like a guaranteed return, like a walking lottery ticket. Imagine being a teenager and every adult around you is already planning your professional career, already spending money you haven't made, already building expectations you never asked for. You're not allowed to figure yourself out. You're not allowed to fail quietly, experiment, make mistakes in private. Every single move you make is being watched, evaluated, projected into a future that hasn't happened yet. And here's the part nobody talks about. That kind of pressure, it doesn't motivate you, it suffocates you, because praise stops being encouragement and becomes obligation. Every time someone says you're special, you're unstoppable, you're going to be great, what they're really saying is, you better be, because if you're not, you wasted all of this potential, you let everyone down, you're a disappointment. So Shaq learned early, very early, how to perform, how to dominate, how to live up to expectations, but he never learned how to sit with himself, how to process fear, how to be vulnerable, because vulnerability wasn't rewarded in his world. Strength was, dominance was, results were, and anything less than that, weakness, softness, doubt, that had to be hidden, buried, locked away. His upbringing was strict, discipline without emotional space. And listen, I'm not criticizing his parents or his childhood, but here's what happened. Shaq learned that being strong meant never showing fear, that being dominant meant never questioning yourself, that winning meant you didn't need to grow anymore, and that belief, that comfortable lie, it followed him his entire career. When he got angry, and trust me, he got angry, he didn't talk about it, didn't process it, didn't sit with it. He dunked, violently, aggressively, with a force that shattered backboards and sent a message to everyone watching. I'm in control, I'm powerful, I'm unstoppable. But what he was really saying, what he couldn't admit even to himself, was, I'm scared, I'm uncomfortable, I don't know how to deal with what I'm feeling, so I'm going to destroy something instead. Those broken backboards everyone remembers, those weren't celebrations, those were releases, emotional pressure valves exploding because the internal discomfort had nowhere else to go. Shaq used physical dominance the way most people use therapy, as a way to avoid the real work, the internal work, the uncomfortable growth that happens when you stop running and start reflecting. And here's the thing about Shaq, his talent arrived too easily. I know that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say about someone who worked hard, but hear me out. Shaq could dominate games without being disciplined. He could win without being obsessive. He could be great without being uncomfortable. And when greatness comes naturally, when you can coast to success, discipline feels optional, growth feels unnecessary. Why push harder when you're already the best? So he entered the NBA as a guarantee, not a developing player, and the world treated him that way. No grace for mistakes, no patience for growth. Every missed free throw became a joke. Every playoff loss became a referendum on his effort, his heart, his dedication, and the criticism shifted. It wasn't about his ability anymore. Everyone knew he was talented. It was about his discipline, his focus, his willingness to be uncomfortable. And Shaq's response to that criticism, humor, jokes, laughter, charm. He became one of the most likable superstars in sports history, cracking jokes, making movies, recording albums, showing up on talk shows with that infectious smile and charisma that made it impossible not to love him. But here's what people missed. The humor wasn't just personality, it was armor. It was a way to control the narrative, to redirect attention, to make people forget the uncomfortable questions about effort and discipline. If everyone's laughing with you, they're not judging you. If they like you, they go easier on you. If you're entertaining off the court, they focus less on what you're not doing on it. And it worked. Shaq became a cultural icon, transcended basketball, became bigger than the game itself. But privately, quietly, in those moments of silence he tried so hard to avoid, he was questioning everything. And then came Kobe Bryant, young, obsessive, hungry, disciplined in a way that felt almost unhealthy. Kobe represented everything Shaq wasn't. Sacrifice without compromise, discipline without exception, obsession without apology, and their partnership, their dominance together. It came with an unavoidable mirror that Shaq couldn't escape. Kobe didn't have to say anything. His presence was the judgment. His work ethic was the accusation. His dedication was the silent question. Are you doing enough? Are you pushing hard enough? Are you being the player you could be? And Shaq felt it every single day, this philosophical clash between dominance and discipline, between talent and obsession, between being great and being complete. People remember their feud as ego, as personality differences, as two alphas unable to coexist. But it was deeper than that. Kobe made Shaq uncomfortable, not because of what he said, but because of what he represented. The version of himself he could be if he was willing to be miserable, to sacrifice everything, to live and breathe basketball with a singular focus that left no room for anything else. And Shaq made a choice, consciously or unconsciously. He chose comfort over discomfort, balance over obsession, dominance over perfection. And he won 3 straight championships with Kobe, became one of the most decorated players in history, Finals MVP 3 times, regular season MVP, Hall of Fame career, everything you could ask for, except it wasn't enough, not for him, not in the quiet moments. Because here's what Shaq was really afraid of, not losing, not critics, not even Kobe. He was afraid of being incomplete, of underachieving, of looking back at his career and knowing, truly knowing deep in his soul, that he could have been more, done more, pushed harder, that his legacy would forever have an asterisk, not from the media, but from himself. The championships didn't silence that doubt, the money didn't erase it, the fame didn't make it go away. The narrative just shifted from can he win to could he have done more. And that question, that quiet, persistent, unavoidable question, it followed him everywhere. So he did what he always did. He ran, not physically, but mentally. He expanded, moved into everything, movies, music, commercials, business ventures, television shows, endorsements. He was everywhere, doing everything, staying so busy that there was no time to sit still, no space for silence, no opportunity for that uncomfortable reflection he'd been avoiding his entire life. And it worked. For decades it worked. Shaq stayed relevant, stayed successful, stayed beloved. But eventually, inevitably, the noise stops, the cameras turn off, the applause fades, and you're left alone with yourself, with your thoughts, with the truth you've been running from. And that's when Shaq finally admitted it, years after retiring, in interviews where his voice carried a weight that wasn't there during his playing days. He said it out loud. I could have pushed harder. I could have been more disciplined. I could have been better. And the regret wasn't about money or fame, those things he had in abundance. The regret was about effort, about discipline, about looking in the mirror and knowing he left something on the table. Now listen, this is where the story gets really important, because Shaq's confession, his honesty about his own shortcomings, it reveals something profound about legacy, about greatness, about what really matters when everything is said and done. Legacy isn't defined by dominance, it's defined by sacrifice, by the willingness to be uncomfortable, to push past your natural gifts and into the territory that requires real work, real discipline, real growth. Shaq dominated an entire era, changed the game, forced rule changes, made teams rebuild their entire rosters just to try to slow him down. But decades later, the question that haunts him isn't about championships or statistics. It's about effort. Did I do everything I could? Did I maximize every ounce of potential? Did I honor the gift I was given with the discipline it deserved? And here's why this story matters beyond basketball, beyond sports, beyond entertainment. Because Shaq's struggle is universal. It's the struggle of anyone who's ever been naturally good at something, anyone who's ever coasted on talent, anyone who's ever chosen comfort over growth, anyone who's ever been afraid of silence, of reflection, of sitting with themselves and asking the hard questions. How many people right now are living below their potential because they're good enough, because they're successful enough, because pushing harder would mean being uncomfortable, being disciplined, being honest with themselves in ways that feel scary, intimidating, overwhelming? Shaq's gift became his cage, his talent became his excuse, his dominance became his comfort zone. And by the time he realized it, by the time he understood what he'd been running from, it was too late to go back, too late to change the story, too late to rewrite the legacy. But here's the thing, and this is crucial: Shaq's honesty, his willingness to admit this publicly, to own his regret, to acknowledge that he could have been more. That's growth. That's the reflection he avoided for so long finally happening. That's the silence he feared finally teaching him something. Most legends die defending their choices, protecting their legacy, refusing to admit any weakness or doubt. But Shaq, the man who spent his entire career avoiding discomfort, found the courage to sit in the most uncomfortable truth of all. I wasn't complete. I left something on the table. I failed myself. And you know what that teaches us? What that reveals about the nature of greatness? That success and fulfillment are not the same thing. That you can win and still lose. That you can dominate and still feel incomplete. That the hardest opponent isn't on the court, isn't in the media, isn't in the critics or the doubters. It's inside you. It's the voice that knows the truth, that sees through the excuses, that refuses to let you off the hook. Shaq's story is a warning and a lesson wrapped together. A warning about what happens when you let talent replace discipline, when you choose comfort over growth, when you run from silence instead of sitting in it, but also a lesson about honesty, about the courage it takes to admit you fell short, not to others, but to yourself. The cameras loved Shaq, the fans adored him, the league celebrated him, but none of that mattered in the quiet moments, in the silence he spent his whole life avoiding, because that's where truth lives, that's where growth happens, that's where you have to face yourself without the armor, without the jokes, without the distractions. And here's the final thought I want to leave you with, the thing that makes Shaq's story so powerful, so relevant, so important. It's not about basketball, it's about being human. It's about the battle between who we are and who we could be, between comfort and potential, between the life we're living and the life we're capable of living. Shaq was 7'1", 325 pounds, one of the most physically dominant athletes in history. And even he couldn't escape the hardest opponent, the one waiting in silence, the one that asks, did you do enough? Did you push hard enough? Did you honor your potential with the effort it deserved?